At 35, Min-Jae had learned one simple truth about the world. Everything bent eventually: markets, governments, rivals, and women. He sat at the highest table of Eclipse, Seoul's most exclusive nightclub, a place where money did not whisper but announced itself loudly. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen stars above a sea of bodies moving to deep bass and flashing lights. Champagne flowed as freely as promises that would never be kept. This was Min-Jae's playground. They called him Min-Jae in certain circles, the polished, westernized version of his name used by international media, fashion houses, and women who liked to pretend they knew him. Billionaire CEO, tech mogul, investor, power broker. Handsome in a way that was almost offensive, sharp jawline, controlled lips, eyes that looked like they had never once begged for anything. His black hair was styled carelessly, the kind of carelessness that cost money. His suit jacket lay draped over the chair. Sleeves of his tailored shirt rolled just enough to show the expensive watch hugging his wrist. Women hovered. They always did. A model leaned close, her perfume sweet and cloying. A socialite laughed too loudly at nothing. A singer touched his arm as if it belonged to her. Min-Jae smiled when required, spoke when necessary, and dismissed them when bored. He did not see women as cruelly as gossip painted him to be. He simply did not believe in permanence. Desire came, desire went, and when it went, so did the woman attached to it. Love, in his experience, was a transaction poorly disguised as destiny. "Another bottle?" the manager asked, bowing slightly. Min-Jae nodded without looking up. That was when he saw her. She was not trying to be seen. In a club where women dressed to compete for attention, Bella stood out by not competing at all. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves without screaming for validation. Her hair fell in soft waves down her back, catching light when she moved. She laughed. Freely, fully. Head thrown back, eyes closed for a moment as if nothing else in the room mattered. She was with a friend, dancing but not recklessly, enjoying the music without losing herself to it. There was a balance in her movements, confidence without arrogance, joy without desperation. Min-Jae's gaze lingered longer than usual. "Who's that?" he asked, nodding slightly. The man beside him followed his line of sight. "No idea. New face. Interesting." Min-Jae stood. The women at his table straightened instinctively, hope flaring in their eyes. He ignored them all. As he crossed the floor, bodies parted almost unconsciously. Influence had a way of clearing space. Bella didn't notice him at first. She was mid-laugh, whispering something to her friend. When she finally looked up and saw him standing there, tall and unmistakably expensive, her smile didn't falter, but it didn't sharpen either. "Hi," Min-Jae said smoothly. "Can I buy you a drink?" Her eyes flicked briefly to his face, then to his watch, then back to his eyes. She smiled politely. "No, thank you." The words were gentle, calm, certain. Min-Jae blinked once. Behind her, the friend's eyes widened. She stepped forward immediately. "I'll take one," she said quickly, hand already reaching for his arm. "I'm Kendra." Min-Jae barely glanced at her. His attention stayed on Bella. "You don't drink." "I do," Bella replied. "Just not with strangers." "I'm not a stranger for long." She laughed softly, not flirtatious, not mocking. Just amused. "That's confident. It's honest." She shook her head. "Still no." Her friend shot her a look of disbelief, but Bella didn't budge. Min-Jae felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Refusal. Not playful resistance. Not bargaining. Not a test. A full stop. He smiled, slower this time. "At least tell me your name." "Bella." "And you're here with?" "My friend," she said simply. "And my piece." Min-Jae chuckled. "I don't mean to disturb it." "You already have," she replied lightly. And then she turned away. Just like that. Min-Jae stood there longer than necessary, watching her dance again as if he had never existed. Kendra leaned into him immediately. "Ignore her," she purred. "Some girls like to play hard to get." Min-Jae straightened, jaw tightening. "No," he said quietly. "She's not playing." For the rest of the night, Min-Jae could not focus. Deals were discussed. Laughter rang out. Women brushed against him. None of it registered. His eyes kept drifting back to Bella. How she leaned close to her friend when she laughed. How she checked her phone and slipped it back into her purse without obsession. How she danced with control instead of abandon. She wasn't hunting. She was enjoying herself. That bothered him more than it should have. When she headed toward the bar, he followed. "I'm Min-Jae," he said again, appearing beside her. She nodded. "I know. You do. People keep whispering," she said casually. "You're hard to miss." "And yet," he said, "you still said no." She met his gaze this time, really met it. Her eyes were warm but firm. "Your name doesn't change my answer." Min-Jae felt irritation spark, and something else beneath it. Curiosity. "You don't care that I'm wealthy?" She shrugged. "Money is nice, but it's not impressive on its own." No woman had ever said that to him without lying. He leaned closer. "I could make your life very comfortable." "I'm already comfortable," Bella replied. "I work. I pay my bills. I dance on weekends. I sleep peacefully." "And love?" he asked before thinking. She paused, then smiled sadly. "Love isn't something I rush into. Neither is sex," she didn't say, but Min-Jae somehow felt it. The DJ announced last call. People began to disperse. Bella grabbed her purse. "Have a good night, Min-Jae." "You're leaving?" "Yes." "Let me drive you." "No." "At least let me walk you out." She hesitated, then nodded. "That's fine." They walked side by side toward the exit. He noticed how she didn't cling to his arm, didn't lean into him for effect. Outside, cool night air wrapped around them. "Why me?" he asked suddenly. She stopped and looked at him. "What? Why say no to me so easily?" Bella smiled. "Because you're used to yes." And with that, she waved and walked away, heels clicking against the pavement, disappearing into the night without once looking back. Min-Jae stood there long after she was gone. For the first time in his life, money hadn't spoken loudly enough. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he already knew this was not a woman he would forget. Min-Jae did not sleep that night. That alone should have warned him. He lay in his penthouse apartment, glass walls overlooking a city that glittered like it existed for his pleasure, staring at the ceiling as dawn threatened the edges of the sky. Women had slept in this bed countless times. Models, executives, actresses, heirs to fortunes that rivaled his own. They usually left before sunrise, slipping out quietly or noisily, depending on how much they wanted to be remembered. Bella's absence felt louder than any of them had ever been. He replayed the moment she turned away from him outside the club. The confidence, the calm certainty, the way she hadn't checked to see if he was watching her leave. Min-Jae scoffed softly to himself. Ridiculous. She was just a woman. A beautiful one, yes. A different one, perhaps. But different did not mean untouchable. Every person had a price: money, opportunity, security, influence. People only pretended otherwise until life tested them hard enough. And yet, she hadn't flinched. By the time the sun rose fully, Min-Jae was already dressed. The next few days should have erased her. They didn't. At work, Min-Jae closed a billion-dollar acquisition without breaking a sweat. His board praised his vision. Investors followed his lead like sheep. Power still bent to his will. Women still smiled when he entered rooms. And yet, his eyes searched crowds unconsciously. At a cafe meeting, he looked up when a woman laughed. Not her. At a charity gala, he paused mid-conversation when he spotted a black dress across the room. Not her. At another club, one he didn't even enjoy, he found himself irritated within minutes. "Something wrong?" his assistant asked during a late meeting. "No," Min-Jae said sharply, then softened his tone. "Find out who she is." "Who?" "The woman from Eclipse." "Bella." His assistant hesitated. "Do you have a last name?" "No." A lesser man would have stopped there. Min-Jae didn't. Within 48 hours, he had her. Bella Thompson, 25, African American, marketing coordinator at a mid-sized creative firm. No scandal. No sugar daddy rumors. No trail of men climbing over each other for public access to her. She worked. She paid her rent. She volunteered at a youth center twice a month. Min-Jae stared at the file longer than he meant to. This wasn't the profile of a woman waiting to be rescued or bought. Interesting. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Set up a meeting. With her company? No, he corrected. With her. Bella's phone buzzed while she was at lunch with her coworkers. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Then again. With a sigh, she excused herself and answered. Hello. Bella Thompson, a smooth male voice said. This is Min-Jae Han. Her steps slowed. Yes, she said carefully. I'd like to take you to dinner. Bella laughed once. You're persistent. I'm interested. You were interested at the club. And you said no. I'm still saying no. Silence stretched between them. Min-Jae wasn't used to silence after his declarations. I can pick any restaurant you like, he offered. Anywhere in the city. That's generous, Bella replied, unbothered. But unnecessary. Name your terms, he said, irritation threading his voice. You want something. Everyone does. Bella stopped walking completely. No, she said slowly. Not everyone. And then she hung up. Min-Jae stared at his phone like it had betrayed him. That night, Bella went out again. Not because of him, but because it was Friday, and she refused to let a man she barely knew occupy space in her joy. She was at a smaller lounge this time. Less flash. More music. A place where conversation mattered. She was halfway through her drink when a familiar presence settled beside her. You're following me now? She asked without looking. Min-Jae smiled. I prefer running into. She turned to face him, eyebrow raised. You tracked me. I found you. That's not comforting. He chuckled. You're safe. Am I? She asked calmly. Because powerful men tend to forget that women don't owe them access. The words landed harder than any insult. Min-Jae took a breath. I'm not asking for access. What are you asking for then? A conversation. She studied him, really studied him this time. The arrogance was still there, yes. But beneath it, something restless. Something bruised. One drink, she said finally. Then I'm leaving. Relief flickered across his face before he masked it. Deal. They talked. Not about money. Not about power. He asked about her job. She spoke honestly. About long hours, creative frustration, ambition that didn't scream but simmered. She asked about his work, and he gave her something close to the truth, though he polished it instinctively. You enjoy control, she observed. I enjoy results. Same thing. He smirked. You're sharp. I have to be. The drink ended. She stood. That was the conversation, Bella said. Good night, Min-Jae. You still won't have dinner with me? No. He watched her leave again. Shoulders straight, pace unhurried. Something twisted in his chest. Min-Jae tried a different approach. He stopped chasing. At least visibly. Instead, he appeared casually, coincidentally, where Bella existed. At the cafe near her office. At the art show she attended with friends. At the charity fundraiser she volunteered at. He didn't crowd her. Didn't pressure her. He spoke when spoken to. Left when she seemed tired. And slowly, against her better judgment, Bella began to relax. You're different lately, she said one afternoon as they sat on a park bench, coffee between them. Different how? Less performative. Min-Jae exhaled. Maybe I'm tired. Of what? Being what everyone expects. She glanced at him. That's dangerous thinking. Why? Because it usually leads to wanting things you can't control. His gaze lingered on her lips for half a second too long. Maybe, he said quietly. When he finally asked her to dinner again weeks later, she surprised them both by saying yes. One dinner. No expectations. He took her to a quiet restaurant. Not famous, not flashy. Just warm. Bella noticed. You didn't pick this place for your reputation, she said. No, he admitted. I picked it because the food is good. They laughed together, truly laughed. Min-Jae found himself listening more than speaking. Found himself wanting to impress her with kindness instead of wealth. When he walked her home, he didn't ask to come inside. She paused at her door. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight. For giving me a chance." She hesitated. "I didn't give you a chance. I gave you an evening. I'll take it." As she stepped inside, she turned back. "Min-Jae. Yes. Don't make me regret this." He met her gaze, something solemn settling into his expression. "I won't." He meant it. What he didn't realize, what terrified him if he'd stopped to think, was that this was no longer a game. Because for the first time in his life, Min-Jae wanted something he couldn't force. And that want was beginning to change him. Min-Jae had never been a patient man. In business, impatience cost money. In relationships, if they could be called that, impatience had never mattered. Women wanted him more the less he waited. Desire had always bent easily to proximity, luxury, and attention. He was used to acceleration, to things escalating quickly and ending just as fast. Bella did none of that. Their evenings together stretched into weeks, and still, she refused to move at his pace. They met for coffee, walks, casual dinners that ended with polite goodnights. Sometimes she laughed with him so freely he felt weightless. Other times she pulled away, guarded, eyes watchful as if she were measuring him against something unseen. And every time he thought, "Tonight," she would smile softly and say, "I should go." At first, Min-Jae told himself it was refreshing. By the third week, it was maddening. "You don't let people get close," he said one evening as they sat in a quiet jazz bar, low lights painting her skin gold. Bella stirred her drink slowly. "I let people get close. I just don't let them rush me." "That sounds like fear." She looked up sharply. "That sounds like judgment." He held her gaze. "Fair." She softened slightly. "I've seen what happens when people confuse attention for intention." The words struck him deeper than he expected. "Is that what you think I'm doing?" he asked. "I think," Bella replied carefully, "that you're used to taking, and I'm used to choosing." Silence fell between them, not uncomfortable, but heavy. Min-Jae exhaled. "I don't want to take from you." She studied him, skepticism flickering. "You say that like you believe it." "I do." She didn't answer, but she didn't leave either. Min-Jae noticed changes in himself before he fully understood them. He stopped bringing women around entirely. His assistant raised an eyebrow when party invitations went unanswered. Old friends teased him, asked if he was ill. "You've gone quiet," one of them said over drinks. "Found religion?" "No," Min-Jae replied, staring into his glass. "Found a problem." They laughed. He didn't, because Bella was becoming more than an interest. She was becoming a mirror. Every careless thing he'd done before reflected back at him through her boundaries. When he tried to buy her gifts, she refused them. "This is too much," she said, pushing the box back across the table. "It's just a bracelet." "It's a statement," she corrected. "And I didn't ask for it. I just wanted to make you happy." "I am happy," she said gently. "Please don't mistake happiness for wanting things." No woman had ever rejected his generosity without resentment. Bella did it without guilt. One night, rain trapped them under the awning of her apartment building. Thunder rolled in the distance, the city slick and glowing. They stood closer than usual, heat between them undeniable. "You can come up," she said after a long pause, "just to wait out the rain." Min-Jae's pulse spiked. He followed her inside, senses alert, expectations dangerously alive. Her apartment was modest, clean, lived in, books stacked on the coffee table, a throw blanket folded neatly on the couch. No signs of anyone else. She kicked off her shoes. "Tea?" "Yes," he said too quickly. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, rain tapping against the windows like an impatient drum. Minutes passed. The space between them shrank without either of them moving. Min-Jae turned toward her. "Bella." She looked at him. Her eyes were darker now, breath shallow. He leaned in slowly, deliberately, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft, tentative, and unbearably charged. It wasn't hungry. It was curious, reverent. When they broke apart, Bella rested her forehead against his. "That's all," she whispered. Min-Jae swallowed hard. His body wanted more. His instinct screamed to push, to test, to take. Instead, he nodded. "That's all," he repeated. The restraint hurt, but it also did something else. It rewired him. The next morning, Min-Jae woke with Bella still on his mind. He hadn't touched her beyond that kiss, hadn't stayed the night, hadn't crossed the line he knew she'd drawn. And for the first time in his life, he felt proud of himself for what he didn't do. He called her later that day. "Are you free tonight?" he asked. She laughed softly. "You're persistent." "Yes," he admitted, "but respectful." There was a pause. "Dinner," she said. "Not late." Progress. Bella noticed the changes too. Min-Jae listened now, really listened. He asked questions and remembered the answers. He showed up on time. He didn't dominate conversations. He didn't touch her unless invited. It unsettled her. Not because it felt wrong, but because it felt sincere. "You're different from the man I met at the club," she told him one night as they walked along the river. "I know." "Why?" He stopped walking, turned to face her. "Because you don't let me be that man with you." Her chest tightened. "That's not my responsibility." "I know," he said quietly. "It's my choice." She searched his face for deception and found none. Still, fear lingered. Men like him didn't change without consequences. The tension between them finally snapped one evening when desire outweighed caution. They were kissing again. Deeper this time, hunger threading through restraint. Min-Jae's hands trembled where they rested at her waist. "Bella," he murmured, "tell me to stop." She closed her eyes. "I can't," she whispered. He stilled instantly. She opened her eyes, startled. "You stopped." "You didn't tell me not to," he said. "But you didn't tell me yes." Her breath hitched. Something in her expression shifted. Surprise, then emotion she hadn't expected to feel. "You make this hard," she said softly. "You make me want to be better," he replied. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Bella pulled back gently. "Not yet," she said. Min-Jae nodded, even though disappointment burned. "Not yet," he agreed. As she walked away that night, Bella pressed a hand to her chest. Because for the first time since meeting him, she felt something dangerous stir. Not attraction, trust. And Min-Jae, standing alone under the city lights, realized something that terrified him more than rejection ever had. He was no longer in control, and he didn't want to be if control meant losing her. Min-Jae had built his life on certainty. Certainty in numbers. Certainty in contracts. Certainty that people, especially women, were predictable once you understood what they wanted. Bella was dismantling that belief piece by piece. By the fourth week of knowing her, she had become the quiet constant in his days. Not the loud interruption he once chased, but the steady presence that lingered even when she wasn't there. He found himself thinking of her in meetings, wondering if she'd eaten, if she was laughing at something small and unimportant, if she was thinking of him too, or if he was just another man passing briefly through her life. That thought unsettled him more than any business risk ever had. The invitation came unexpectedly. "My friend is hosting a birthday dinner," Bella said over the phone one afternoon. "Nothing fancy, just people who actually know each other." Min-Jae hesitated. He had attended galas, fundraisers, elite gatherings where everyone wore masks polished to perfection. A casual dinner where he was just a guest was unfamiliar territory. "You don't have to come," Bella added quickly. "I know it's not your scene." "I want to come," he said, surprising himself with how easily the words came. She smiled on the other end of the line. He could hear it. "Okay, 7 o'clock. The restaurant was small, warm, filled with laughter and the clinking of cutlery. No private rooms. No VIP treatment. Just a long table crowded with people who greeted Bella with hugs and teasing smiles. Min-Jae stood slightly behind her, hands in his pockets, suddenly aware of his height, his accent, the way his tailored jacket looked out of place among denim and casual dresses. "This is Min-Jae," Bella said, her hand brushing his arm briefly. "My friend." Friend. The word shouldn't have mattered. It did. Introductions followed. Questions came. Some curious, some guarded. Min-Jae answered them all without arrogance, without revealing too much. He listened more than he spoke, laughing at jokes that weren't aimed at him. Bella watched from across the table, surprised. He wasn't performing. He was present. At one point, her friend leaned toward her and whispered, "He's different than I expected." Bella nodded slowly. "Me too." As the night wore on, wine loosened tongues and stories spilled freely. Bella shared moments from her childhood. Her mother's strict rules, her father's quiet encouragement, the way she learned early to stand on her own. Min-Jae listened, heart tightening. Later, as they walked outside together, cool air wrapping around them, he broke the silence. "You never told me your father passed away," he said softly. She stopped walking. "I don't tell many people." "Why?" "Because when people know, they start treating me like something fragile." He turned to face her. "You're not fragile." Her eyes shimmered briefly before she looked away. "Thank you." They stood close, closer than usual, the streetlights casting long shadows around them. And then she kissed him. Not tentative, not cautious, decisive. Min-Jae's world narrowed to the warmth of her mouth, the certainty of her hands resting against his chest. His arms wrapped around her instinctively, pulling her closer, heart pounding. When they finally pulled apart, Bella rested her forehead against his again, breath uneven. "I trust you," she whispered. Those 3 words hit him harder than any declaration of love ever had. They didn't go home that night. They went to his place. The elevator ride was silent, charged. Bella's hand was tucked into his, her thumb brushing his skin unconsciously. Min-Jae felt every small movement like electricity. Inside the penthouse, the city spread out beneath them in glittering silence. Bella took it in with quiet awe, but didn't let it distract her. "This doesn't change anything," she said softly. "I know," Min-Jae replied, and for once he meant it. The night unfolded slowly. Every touch was deliberate. Every kiss carried intention. Min-Jae moved with a care that surprised even him, as if something sacred was unfolding rather than desire being satisfied. When Bella finally trusted him enough to give herself fully, he realized, too late to stop it, that this was not just sex. This was surrender. And when he discovered her innocence, her vulnerability offered without fear, something in him broke open. He held her afterward, arms wrapped tightly around her, afraid of the thought of letting her go. Bella lay quietly against his chest, eyes open, thoughts racing. She didn't feel changed. She felt uncertain. Morning light crept across the room. Bella woke first. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, feeling the weight of his arm around her waist. There was comfort there, but also an unfamiliar tightness in her chest. She slipped carefully from the bed, dressed quietly, and stood for a moment looking back at him. Min-Jae stirred. "Don't go," he murmured, eyes still closed. Her heart twisted. "I have to," she said softly. This was something, but it doesn't mean what you think it does. He opened his eyes then, confusion flickering. "What do you think I think?" She hesitated. "That this changes everything." He sat up slowly. "Doesn't it?" Bella shook her head gently. "Not for me. Not yet." She leaned down and kissed his cheek, tender, restrained. "Please don't chase me because of last night," she whispered. "Let it mean only what it was." And then she left. Min-Jae sat alone in his bed long after the door closed. Because for the first time in his life, he realized something devastating. He had crossed a line he could never uncross. He was in love, and the woman who held his heart didn't know if she wanted it. Min-Jae had never been afraid of loss. He'd lost deals, opportunities, people. Everything replaceable had always been replaced. Even when something stung, he told himself it was temporary. Another turn of the wheel, another advantage waiting somewhere ahead. Bella leaving that morning felt nothing like that. It felt permanent. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, watching the city wake beneath him, coffee untouched in his hand. The echo of her words replayed over and over. This doesn't mean what you think it does. Please don't chase me because of last night. For the first time in his life, Min-Jae didn't know how to move forward without destroying what he wanted to protect. Bella didn't disappear. She answered his messages briefly. She agreed to see him occasionally. But something had shifted. The ease they once shared now carried caution. Like a bruise, she kept pressing to test if it still hurt. I told you not to change your behavior because of me, she said one evening as they walked side by side along the river. I haven't, Min-Jae replied. She stopped walking. You have. You look at me like I might vanish. He didn't deny it. That night, she continued softly, meant something to you. Yes. It didn't mean the same thing to me. The words were honest, not cruel, but they cut just the same. Min-Jae nodded slowly. I understand. She searched his face. Do you? I'm trying to. What Min-Jae didn't tell her was how deeply her restraint frightened him. He was used to women clinging after intimacy, asking for reassurance, wanting more. Bella had done the opposite. She'd drawn a line, refusing to let a single night define her future. It forced him into unfamiliar territory. Patience, humility, choice. Bella threw herself into work. Campaign deadlines, client meetings, late nights at the office. Anything to quiet the questions forming in her chest. She liked Min-Jae more than she wanted to admit, trusted him more than she'd planned to, and that scared her. Men like him didn't love quietly. They loved loudly, possessively, or not at all. She refused to be a conquest dressed up as commitment. The first test came sooner than she expected. They were at a gallery opening when a woman approached Min-Jae. Beautiful, confident, familiar in a way that tightened Bella's chest. Min-Jae, the woman said warmly. It's been forever. Bella instinctively stepped back. Old habits resurfaced in Min-Jae's posture for half a second. Charm ready, familiarity expected. Then he did something unexpected. This is Bella, he said calmly. I'm with her. No explanation. No ambiguity. The woman smiled thinly, nodded, and walked away. Bella didn't speak until they were alone again. You didn't have to do that, she said. I wanted to. She studied him carefully. Why? Because I'm choosing you, he replied. Even if you haven't chosen me. Her breath caught. That wasn't possession. That was restraint. The change in Min-Jae became visible to everyone else before Bella fully accepted it. He stopped hosting parties altogether. His name vanished from gossip columns. His assistant noticed he left work earlier, not to meet women, but to cook dinner for one person who might or might not show up. You're different, Bella said one night, sitting on his couch, knees pulled to her chest. So are you. She smiled faintly. How? You're letting me stay, he said simply. Silence stretched between them. She leaned her head against the back of the couch. I'm afraid. Of me. Of losing myself, she said honestly. Of waking up one day and realizing I bent without noticing. Min-Jae turned toward her fully. Then don't bend. She looked at him. I'll meet you where you are, he continued. Even if it's far from where I want to be. Her eyes softened, but she didn't answer. The breaking point came unexpectedly. Min-Jae was invited to a high-profile international summit. Weeks abroad, media coverage, endless temptation. The old version of him would have gone without a second thought. Instead, he stood in Bella's kitchen, invitation in hand. I won't go if you don't want me to, he said. Bella stared at him. That's not fair. I know. You don't get to make your world smaller because of me. I'm not, he said gently. I'm choosing what matters. She took a shaky breath. And if I ask you not to wait for me? He didn't hesitate. I'll still wait. Thank you for watching. Episode 1 ends here. Find out more about the story in episode 2 coming up soon. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.